kwetu kikwetu kila siku.
My guest in just a bit, and the town hall is already ready here to have that conversation. But let me set the context to this conversation. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights released an alternative report evaluating the state's compliance with the constitutional obligations on national values and principles of governance. They are also raising fresh concerns there over transparency, accountability, and protection of fundamental rights across the key public sectors. Watch.
Patriotism, national unity, rule of law, democracy, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, transparency, accountability, and sustainable development are among the values enshrined in Article 10 of Kenya's Constitution. A new report by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights shows progress made over the last 2 years in the realization of national values, as well as gaps and recommendations. Patriotism and national unity were tested during the 2024 Gen Z protests against the Finance Bill 2024, which left over 60 dead and caused widespread destruction. The president responded by withdrawing the bill and forming a broad-based cabinet, including opposition figures. While progress has been made in health and housing programs, civil and political rights were undermined during the 2024 anti-finance bill protests, leaving dozens dead, many injured, and triggering thousands of human rights complaints. The Commission stresses stronger citizen involvement and accountability in governance. Power sharing and devolution continue to face challenges. Delays in fund disbursement and low revenue collection have left development budgets underused, limiting essential services like healthcare and infrastructure. KNCHR cites the 2024 Gross County Product Report that shows stark economic gaps, with only Nairobi, Kiambu, Nakuru and Mombasa contributing significantly to the country's GDP. The Commission also expresses serious concern over threats to judicial independence, saying that judges have faced intimidation, including withdrawal of security personnel, prompting condemnation from the Law Society of Kenya and other legal bodies. KNCHR urges the government to fully protect judicial officers and ensure the judiciary can operate without fear or interference. Public participation remains a cornerstone of Kenya's democracy, but recent developments reveal gaps. Courts struck down the Privatization Act 2023 and appointments to the National Climate Change Council for failing to consult citizens. Even a major electricity project with Adani Energies was suspended over lack of transparency and public input. President Ruto later cancelled the contract following indictment of Gautam Adani, the proprietor of the Adani Group in the US, over corruption. On governance, the Commission highlights lack of transparency in international loans and sovereign bond deals, emphasizing that such conduct is contrary to the constitutional requirement for openness. Corruption remains a major concern. The 2024 EACC survey showed bribery as the most common form, with favoritism, abuse of office, tribalism and embezzlement also prevalent, especially in county healthcare services. KNCHR finds that attempts to weaken anti-corruption laws, such as the earlier attempt by Parliament on the Conflict of Interest Bill, stood to undermine transparency and public trust. President Ruto vetoed on Parliament, causing changes into the current law. The Commission warns that without decisive action, inequality, marginalization and weak governance could erode Kenya's hard-won national values. Lillian Muli, Citizen TV.
All right, and that's the conversation we're having right here on the town. Let me start by introducing my guest from my farthest left, Canon Evans Omolo, Provost, All Saints Cathedral. Thank you for making time. Next to him is Sheila Masinde, Executive Director, Transparency International Kenya. Thank you for making time. Next to her is Edward Nyongesa, Director, National Cohesion and Values. Thank you for making time. Next to him is Dr. Purity Ngina, CEO, National Gender and Equality Commission. Thank you for making time. And next to her is Dr. Jacqueline Onyango, Senior Deputy Director, Basic Education and Curriculum Development. Thank you very much for making time. So this is a conversation we're having right now, and I'll start with you, Nyongesa, on this. So when we talk about national values in Kenya, what does that even mean in the Kenyan context?
The national values, thank you, Trevor, for having me. The national values and principles of governance are in Article 10 of our Constitution. And they are presented in 4 clusters, being the focus on where and why we had the national values. They include patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, rule of law, and all these speak to the need for us to foster national identity. We also have values in the category that focus on Bill of Rights, and we have values like the human dignity, like social justice, equity, non-discrimination, protection of the marginalized, among others that focus on the Bill of Rights and protection of it. Then we also have values that focus on government, which include integrity, good governance, and transparency and accountability. Then lastly, we have the value of sustainable development. Okay. When you look at those values as presented in Article 10, the intent of it is to direct the kind of society that we envisioned ourselves to have under the Constitution of Kenya.
All right.
Yes.
Sheila, would you say we've succeeded in any of those values you've just had?
No, we haven't. Even when you look at, especially, and this conversation is very timely, because tomorrow we have the International Anti-Corruption Day, and on the 10th of December is the International Human Rights Day. So when you look at all those values touching on human rights and also touching on governance, we haven't really achieved much in 15 years since we entrenched those values in the Constitution. When, for instance, you consider the level at which we can now say that we have embraced transparency or accountability or integrity or good governance in the running of the state's affairs, we still have challenges, and that's why the levels of corruption are still high, both at the national and at the county government. We still literally have to go to court to demand transparency when you think about the information that we require from government, and coupled with the right to access to information, which is an element of transparency, because without access to information, without transparency, then you can't have public participation, which is also a value. And Kenyans are struggling to participate in government processes, governance processes, because there's just simply no information. And as I said, it has forced many of us to have to go and litigate to court. And even when you get court orders to get certain information from the government, you still won't get it. It's like pulling teeth, you know. So it's been very difficult. When you look at the values around, say, human dignity, human rights, I just look at the sheer number of people who have died in the hands of the state. You know, in fact, we sometimes you'd think that you're safer in the hands of a criminal than the hands of a policeman who's supposed to ensure that you're secure. You know, you're supposed to be treated with a certain level of dignity. But even when you look at the level at which Kenyans are able to access critical services, for instance, health, you know, and even with all these policies, reforms into the health sector, new laws apparently to help Kenyans get more access to health, and even while we're paying more, you know, for social health, you're not able to get those services. And so it means that there's no even dignity applied to getting basic health services, getting even education. When you talk about how Kenyans are able to access education, which is supposed to be in public schools, for instance, free primary education, free secondary education, but you're still finding a lot of young people staying out of school because they can't afford one thing or another in a public school. It tells you that we're not applying that aspect of human dignity, and even when you talk about sustainable development, you know, equity into the running of public affairs.
Okay, let me come to you. You have the microphone there. Just start by introducing yourself. Do you as a Kenyan feel like we uphold national values? Do they mean anything to you as a Kenyan, and even as a parent as well?
Good evening. My name's Simon Lepaso. The national values, I'm from Kajiado County. We seem to have, and I really support what you're saying, we have an issue. There is a break somewhere. And we see how education is being enhanced by the Ministry of Education, for example. I would narrow down to the Ministry of Education. And we have seen the government working hard to do a lot of changes in the matters of education. We have the terms. where the students are taught in those terms, the three of them. But the moment they come home, this is not really supported. I'm not really down to parents because the values that are being taught in school now become an issue at home because our students, our children don't get pregnant in school. They get pregnant at home. And now that begs a question. What is happening? There is a bridge, there is a problem, and this is a question for all the parents across the country.
Yeah.
What is happening to us?
So you think the schools are doing their job, the parents are failing?
Parents are failing.
Okay, let me hear what you have to say. You have the microphone, and Obuhatsa is here. You'll speak on behalf of the parents as well, yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Okoth Opondo. Let me say I'm representing the young parents in the room, Gen Z and the young millennials. So when we talk about the national values, honestly, the past 1 year has been a very important testing time in the life of this country. I just had the report that was read shortly before you introduced the panel that the president is talking about inequality and corruption. Yet the young kids in schools are seeing every time their seniors are rising up to fight this same value. They are butchered on the streets. So I'm just also trying to imagine how we are going to inculcate these values in the lives of these kids while already we are showing them that if you rise to fight corruption and inequality, you are likely to find yourself in jail or to be killed. Then secondly, when you talk about inequality in the era of CBE or CBC, children in public schools are actually seeing what inequality means. They see their teachers not being paid well, and all of us, most of us here, grew up in villages and homes where teachers were the most respected people. I remember whenever you were young and you would say, Nenda kwa mwalimu, so and so, they were very respected people. But you look at Kenya of today, even children themselves, even teachers don't want children to become teachers when they grow up. So I'm exactly even wondering, what is this inequality that we're talking about and how are we going to address it? And to me, that is a conversation that must be held now.
Yeah, you raised the issue of the Gen Zs. In fact, when they were on the streets, the one thing that came up is that they're not patriotic enough. Patriotism is one of the values. Was that the right interpretation, or is it that as a nation we don't have shared values? So they're on paper, but implementation is different.
I think patriotism is a very key thing. When young people rise up to fight for a better country, it doesn't mean that every time when you hear terms like so-and-so must go. I don't think people hate the people in office. They love their country and they deserve better. So when young people are fighting and want a better country, that to me is what we call patriotism. But then you'll hear the older generation saying, no, follow the right channels. The problem with the right channels is that they've been designed in a way that if you follow them, you will not achieve what they want you to achieve. So to me, it is patriotism, but maybe it is a conflict between the older and the younger generation trying to understand what is this patriotism that we are talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pass the microphone to Obuhatsa here, what you have to say about this, because there was also an issue, an allegation that the schools are doing their job, but parents are failing.
Thank you, Trevor, and the audience. My name is Silas David, and I chair the Parents Association. I don't want to say that parents are failing, because I'm a parent. I don't think if I fail in my family. And I don't think if all these parents here have failed. So we can't just have a blanket kind of an answer that parents are failing. First of all, education is holistic. It runs all the way from home to school and from school back at home. If there are sins that the parents are committing and their children are watching, we can also say that there are also sins in schools that teachers are committing and the children are watching, because you all have mobile phones. You are in school or a teacher, and when you call, a friend calls and says, where are you? And you say, I'm in Mombasa, and you're in Nairobi, and you're marking books, and the student is standing there. What values are you putting in this child? You are trying to train the child to say also that she's in Mombasa when she's actually in a school in Nairobi. That's one thing. The other thing is that parents are the first teachers. They live with the children at home. So parents have to be the first instruments that can show that values can be built. They're the foundation. Because values are the foundations of any nation in this world. A nation that has no values is not totally failed. So parents being the first teachers, they must be role models. We say that. And when the children live at home and go to school, because children have time with the teachers, children have time with the parents. When the children have their parents, parents must behave like role models and play their characters. When they go to school, teachers must learn to be very honest and speak the truth before children. Even, let me ask you, when a teacher is scaling a child in school, does this teacher, first of all, listen to the child to understand the problem that has arisen before caning the child? But teachers just get a cane and say, okay, you have been making noise in the class, go down. Twa, twa, twa. That's all. What values is this teacher putting the child that the child can be able to fight back? You see, because the child was not what? Listened to. So values are holistic. We all have to play our roles. Therefore, I cannot say that parents are failing. Neither can I say that teachers are failing.
Okay.
It's teamwork.
Okay. Let me bring in Omolo on this. What are your views? Do we have shared values as a society, or do we read them from different scripts? When you talk of unity, are we united now, or are we even more divided as a nation?
Yeah, thank you, Trevor, and great conversation today. From where I sit, as a Kenyan, indeed a patriotic one, my observation is that, yes, we have values that we generally would agree that these are values that distinguish us as a people. But I guess, in my observation, we haven't quite as much fully embraced and allowed those values to be entrenched and to form a rallying call to every single thing that we do. Why? Because when you look at even our tribal formation, there is a huge tribalization of literally everything in this country. The 2010 Constitution tried to push back on tribalization of the things that we do and institutionalization of tribalism, pushing back and trying to create a sense in which every single Kenyan must be seen to have an equal opportunity, must be seen to be to be important like everyone else, that the issue of one against the other or this one against the other really has taken over. You look at what's happening even in the employment space. You will be considered for shortlisting largely in this country, depending on your second name, depending on the region where you come from, or depending on who forwarded your name or who has put in a word for you. And that seems to be sort of a culture we are building, we are developing. And do you know the value that is springing from? The simple fact that I am more important, I deserve, and she does not deserve, and he does not deserve. So underneath the manifestation, those are cultures. I distinguish them, culture and values. Values are those things that we cannot see. They are the things that form our thinking. But the culture, the manifestation of it, is basically a symptom of what we've been socialized to believe. So when I'm socialized to believe that I am better than Trevor, then I will do everything possible to push Trevor away so that I remain at the very center. So for me, at the national level, we really have a lot of work to do. Three things for me that we must do to really recover some of that ground. One is to talk about what we need to see as values in this country. We call it what you mention. In psychology, we say what you talk about, what you do, is picked 80% by those who observe you, whether it's at work or at home with your children. But then secondly, we must also create a framework and a culture of rewarding good behavior and values. You know, today, we do not see that happening as much. But then thirdly, we must create equally a framework and a system where we punish bad behavior. And on the contrast you see is what's happening today. People who behave badly, and I don't want to go into professions, etc., etc., they seem to be more rewarded. Today, if you have a scandal, it's more likely that you will win an MCA seat or a parliamentary seat.
And that reward is by the people then?
By the people, but that has been socialized. Yeah. They have been socialized to think that way. We must learn to punish what is not right, reward what is good, but constantly talk about and emphasize what is right so that that is built as a culture that can diffuse the wrong values that we see happening in our country today.
I'd like to hear from you people how much of that you accept, that it is actually you who foster some of this lack of values, because then there's a hand up there. You can pass the microphone to him so that we hear what you think before I come to Ngina on this. Is it true that as a people we have no shared values, therefore we can even reward bad behavior, like Provost is saying? The more scandalous you are, the more likely you're to be elected. The more corrupt you are, the more likely you're to be elected into office.
Thank you, Trevor. My name is Peter Obada. And first, today we are talking about Article 10, but I'll come back to Article 1. The people. That means in everything, the power belongs to the people. Now for us to achieve the national goals or values in Article 10, we must first understand Article 1. First, as you said, most of us, we've really awarded these so-called corrupt leaders with a certain level of seats in the parliament, all the stuff. Now for us to change on this, we need to apply a concept known as meritocracy. Meritocracy is a concept where you choose the right people for the right office. And for us to achieve that as a nation, we need to start from the grassroots level, because we can be pointing fingers at the national level. Oh, who is doing this, who is doing this? And all this starts here at the grassroots. So in equation to trying to equate it to CBC, we'll not also say that the parents or the teachers are failing. It is the community. We are the people. We should come back and try to dig out some of the problem that it is from the grassroots. Because you can have a parent and it's just a present parent. What active role are you playing in a child's role? And that is another factor that is that is even affecting the CBC curriculum. Okay. Because some of its main objectives are parents' involvement. Yeah. And parents, some of them are just present. And it makes it very difficult to achieve some of the things.
They're present but not involved.
Yeah, they're present but they're not involved.
Okay.
So now we have to come back, apply the concept of meritocracy, start from the grassroots, and change everything. Thank you.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Ngina on this. You run an institution, the National Gender and Equality Commission. Do our institutions model the values that they expect citizens to follow? And there was an allegation about appointments. Who has forwarded the name? What is their last name? Do the institutions model the values they expect the public to follow?
Yeah, thank you, Trevor. When I sit here, I've really reflected on the conversations and taking notes of what people are saying. Would I say, of course, there's always one institution that probably would make people think that we don't follow, but I think largely you'll find public servant and public institution endeavoring to actually follow the Constitution. I was speaking with the director earlier on the compliance, because we are required from the Office of Public Service Commission to submit our reports on how we are complying to national values. Maybe we need to do more, but not to point a finger on the state, because it is so easy to say it's the government. And when I was outside government, maybe I would also have done the same. And then you find yourself in government, and you realize that whom you're pointing finger to is now being pointed at you. And yet I'm a person who really believes in values and patriotism. And when you think for Kenyans, we are 52 million Kenyans. It's not the government that is going to change this country. It is the people. It's actually what you were saying about Article 1, the preamble of the Constitution, with the people. And the fact that we came up with this Constitution and said we need to have people of integrity and equality and all that. For example, let me use what I deal with every day, matters of gender-based violence, for example. I don't think it is any law that will change that. It is not the law that will change a man to see me as a woman who has capacity to deliver, who is equal in this society and who deserve to be heard. It is the person who has to decide that purity is a human being. And so for me, I look at it is not the government, it is the people themselves that must change. It is the people who have to become more patriotic. It is very disturbing for some of us when you always see people not talking positive about their own country, because you have to love the country. You might have a problem with Dr. Ngina, but that doesn't mean you should have a problem with National Gender and Equality Commission, right? Because it is the institution and not the person. So I think people must keep on learning how to love their country more. It has challenges, we admit. I'm a young person, and I believe I agree with some of the issues that have been raised on the challenges we are facing as a country. And we are going to face this challenges together, but we're also going to look for solutions together. And it is not what you see, what you say. It is what you do. I'm the blackboard. My children are able to look at Ngeda and say, oh, there are things they can learn from me. So how do we ensure that, especially the young generation, are also carrying those values with them? The things that we see online, every day I wake up, there's probably something saying something about me, which probably is not true. And some people will believe it, you know, and assume that what they have said or what was said is true. That is lack of morals, ethos, you know, some of these things that are in the Constitution. So as much as I agree, we have institutions that might be doing what is wrong, I also think there's a perception. I joined the commission, became the CEO. I'm an employer now. There's a perception that, you know, when you advertise, the person will call you and ask, "Hii munape nani?" And I'm like, did you read the advert? Kindly submit your document if you think you're qualified. So there's that perception. I don't know how we are going to change it for people to appreciate that I don't care who gets the opportunity. I care about who can deliver.
Is it just a perception, or is it part of reality?
It is. It can be both. I think it's a perception that I think there's a perception. I think there's a perception.
Really?
I think there's a perception.
Okay. And you spoke about patriotism. So if there are challenges, like you mentioned them in the country, and I'm expected to speak positively about my country, and as much as I know there are challenges, am I being patriotic or am I being a liar?
You're not, I mean, speaking positive about your country is not being a liar. It's about your country. You say, my country is good. However, 1, 2, 3. But we can't have everybody, when even something positive happens about the country, there's nobody talking anything positive about it.
Isn't that because the negative outweigh the positive by far?
No, I think there's just a bad vibe, as I call it, that people just don't take time to appreciate what it means to be a Kenyan and to be in a country that is stable. You know, only when you go to other countries, you start appreciating that Kenya is actually a great country. You go to other countries, they are making presentations about your country, and you're like, you know, they're appreciating. Yeah. They actually would wish to be Kenyans. But when you come here and listen to the people who are plus 254, they have nothing positive. I mean, it's sad.
Okay. Yeah. Let me hear what Dr. Onyango Jacqueline has to say about this. Are we too far gone? Are we a lost cause as a generation? Therefore, we now just focus on the younger ones, on the basic education, and teach them more values. And what would that look like? Do we need to foster this and embed it into the curriculum a bit more?
Thank you, Trevor. And let me just pick up from where everybody has spoken. I think the reality is that each one of us is a Kenyan. And therefore, each one of us has a bond with this country. And each one of us must take responsibility for what we do in this country. If you look at our Constitution and you see not even that article that says we are giving ourselves the Constitution, before it says we are giving ourselves the Constitution, we speak about the responsibility, how we are going to be dignified, and basically that is what embodies a Kenyan. And so I want to challenge all of us, even as we are calling ourselves Kenyans, go and take that Constitution. You'll find it online. We are always online. And just read what the preamble says, and you see where your role is. Let me come to your question. You're asking, are we far gone? No, we are not. I think Kenyans like burying their heads in the sand. And that is why we are saying we are all going to get out of that sand. In terms of education, whether it was traditional education or whether it is now the formal education that we are taking ourselves through, we've done this for the last, I think, 55, going on to 60 years. Education teaches or fosters to bring out the positive, right? And when it is fostering to bring out the positive, it is giving you the opportunity to work from 100% and either choose to maintain the 100% or lower that bar. And I'm just using 100% because it is the highest percentage, right? So when it comes to education, And because the institution I work for, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, we are tasked to do curriculum for basic education. So that limits us, our mandate limits us to basically handle basic education. But as we handle basic education, we are conscious that there are very many players who will make sure that that child goes through basic education. Secondly, as that child goes through basic education, they are definitely expected to exit into tertiary education. So we have a very big role. And so when we picked the issue of values as one of our major principles for the competency-based education, it was very deliberate. We look back and we remember what happened to us in 2007, 2008. I know we had violence before in years 1997. For some reason, we didn't think that is something to talk about. But all of us were shocked by 2007 and 2008. As we did that, in 2008, we remember that we enacted a policy document called the Kenya Vision 2030. In that Kenya Vision 2030, we are talking about a just and cohesive society. By the time we come to 2010 and we are enacting the Constitution, it is even affirming that in the Article 10 that we are all speaking about. So I don't think I want to agree that we are far gone, because a lot of us still are respectful, right? A lot of us still do the right thing. So we need to ask ourselves, what is it then that makes us, who know what we should do that is right, then choose to do what is wrong?
Would you say we are united as a nation right now?
I mean, we are seated here. If the national anthem is played, will we sing it?
Does that mean we are united as a people?
In spirit, yes.
Would you say we uphold the rule of law?
In spirit, yes. And you see, you must begin somewhere. Okay. And that's why I'm saying this is individual. And we need to reflect on each one of us. Reflect and ask yourself, what am I putting in this Kenya? Okay. Other than asking what somebody else is putting. Okay. It's not just about somebody else. But in spirit, that is why you will sing the national anthem. That is why when our athletes do very well, yeah, we all celebrate. You're celebrating because it is Kenya. Mm-hmm. It is a Kenyan, not a Ugandan. But something goes wrong somewhere, and that is what we need to find out. So just allow me to say that we are not emphasizing on the child alone. Mm. As I've indicated, the Institute is tasked to do curriculum for basic education, which starts from pre-primary up to senior secondary now, but we also have an opportunity to do the teacher training for basic education. It was very deliberate when we said we want to amplify certain things. And the things we amplified were the parental engagement and empowerment, and we also amplified the community.
Okay. So let me just hear from you a yes or no answer. Yeah. So do you think we are a socially just society? Do we uphold social justice?
To some percentage and to some not. We cannot say we are completely not, because then we would not be managing. We would be, a country that is already run down.
Do we
are
uphold
not.
Human rights?
Yeah.
We do. Do we uphold human rights?
Yeah, there are some of us who uphold the human rights. There are others who don't. Okay. I don't think I want to give a blanket statement. And Trevor, remember, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
A teacher has many students in the classroom. We don't write off.
I see the
we don't write off our students. Okay. But I think that we should not always be in this pit of pitying ourselves. We need just to look at what is it that we need to do right, so that we follow it. Because as my colleagues have said, there are so many rules that we have made for ourselves.
All right.
But we go out of our way to break the same rules. So what is wrong with us?
So it's mostly
and
us.
Who do we want to sort it out? Because we need to sort it out.
Okay, let me hear from one of the people. I see there are many hands. I'll start with you, then I'll go to him, and then you, then I'll take a quick break. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Yeah.
I want to start from what Daktari said, that public servants are endeavoring to uphold values, they are struggling. In Kenya, they are not endeavoring, they are struggling. And just hear our senior education officials say that we are united in spirit. Values are not in spirit. And for me, I want to start from what really values are. And we are talking about national values here. My name is Odoyo Makoremo. I'm sorry. I never introduced myself. This was very appetizing. Values, national values, I think we are putting the cat before the horse. It's like, do we even have a nation?
We do.
I think we have a country. We have to be truthful. And when we are doing these things as Kenyans, we love our country. That does not mean that we have a nation. Because a nation needs identity. A nationhood is built by identity. What are we as Kenyans? We don't have it. If a Nigerian or somebody from Ghana walked right inside here, somebody would say, without doubt, this gentleman is from Ghana. Would you be able to say the same about Kenya? The things that have been listed in our Constitution, Article 10, about whether they are 17 or they are 13, are things that we can see, but I'm hearing like you want to teach values. Values cannot be taught, they are nurtured. They come from our identity, or who we are. We have to be something first. And then now we nurture those things, reflections from what we are, identifying ourselves. What are we as Kenyans? What are we as Kenyans? Because if I'm Luo, then I'm not Kenyan. If I'm Kikuyu, then I'm not Kenyan. I have to come to the place whereby I have to identify myself, an identity, something that is mutual, something that I can share with my brother from the mountain, and I can share it with my brother from the coast, and that I can be proud. It's the pride of the nation. And we take pride in our identity. I believe patriotism is taking pride in our identity and in our progress, so that we at least get civilized. We are not stagnant. We want to go somewhere. But as we go there, where are we coming from? Who are we as Kenyans? And it's a reflection that we have to do from independence. We are talking about our values. We have values. No, we have fallen values. We don't have anything. We don't have values.
Okay.
And we need to retrace ourselves. Where did we lose it? Because, our values were distorted and molested, particularly through this particular system called democratization, that we are electing people. Kenya is like a market where a thief is running and the people are chasing him, and the thief is calling the people who are chasing thieves. And then we say we have values. I think we need to have a reflection. And people who are working for the government, I know you have to be politically right. But in this particular country, we just have to decide to know, diagnose what is eating us as a nation. Ni nini natukula? Because tukijua ni nini natukula, then who are we? Okay. Sisi ni akina nani, from the lake to the mountain to the valley to the plain to the coast. Who are we? Okay. Then we can be able to nurture the values from where we are, so that when we sing the national anthem, it is coming from us. It's not an action. It's not acting.
All right, thank you, sir. And that's where we take a quick break now with that fundamental question: who or what are we as Kenyans? Right after the break, we continue this conversation.
They call